Welcome into the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Tim Kalinowski of Action Network, and I'm joined by BCS themselves, the heartbeat of our college football coverage. We got Brett McMurphy back, Collin Wilson, Stuckey, and gents. I guess we'll just start. There's a lot to cover on and off the field. A lot of great conversations. Heisman's heating up. A lot of bettable or possibly bettable actions as the discussion heats up. But just quickly, a lot of us on this show had some Penn State futures, and those officially went down the drain as Michigan beats Penn State 24-15. Michigan covers as well. So Collin and Stuckey, I know for you guys at first, probably maybe Collin, as we mourn the loss of our Penn State futures that we ripped those tickets up. How does that feel?
Yeah, we do. We have to rip them up, and we have to acknowledge that Ohio State and Michigan are better teams. It's shocking for me because this team, in my opinion, had the talent on defense to be one of the best in the nation. The offense, I never questioned Mike Yurcich ever in his coaching career, whether it was here at Penn State or the season he had at Texas. But more importantly, he had one season at Ohio State and a whole bunch at Oklahoma State where he was one of the best offensive coordinators in the nation. It shocked me for 7-8 games that this offense was not explosive at all, considering the two returners you had in the backfield at running back, and Drew Aller has the arm strength to throw it downfield. I mean, you can only blame the players so much, but if Mike Yurcich is out, either it's James Franklin saving his job for losing again to Michigan, Ohio State, or there are actual real problems with the offense and they just didn't see eye to eye anymore. But I thought the offense would be the least of the problems this year, but we tear it up and we move on.
Stuckey, how's it feel?
I didn't really care. I told Collin about 2 months ago that they had no chance to win it all. It was a 25-30 to 1 shot. The funny thing is that, it came down to a game where if they would have won that game, they're favored to make the Big Ten championship. They actually just clinched the tiebreaker because Northwestern upset Wisconsin. So if they would have won that game as a 4.5 point dog, they're probably going to the Big Ten championship, then probably going to the college football playoff. But it wouldn't have mattered. With that offense, they're not winning the national title. So I was mad that I lost my bet, but I've written Penn State off a long time ago.
My bet was just to make the playoffs. So the game was a little bit bigger for me. I knew the national title thing. I never had a ticket on, but still just a disappointment all around.
Yeah. And Aller, Heisman, I think you did too, Collin. Like it never got started. It was like it never got going. And we thought the tiebreaker would actually be the hardest part of the whole thing. And they clinched that. So Brett, I'll bring you in here. I don't think you had as much invested in Penn State as the others here, but what'd you make of what went down? And just James Franklin cannot, Action tweeted the graphic 1-something against top 5 teams, 1-10, 1-12, whatever it was. Like, what the hell do we make of this?
Yeah, I think he's 4-16 against Ohio State and Michigan. Yeah, I had that absolutely zero invested on Penn State futures, so it didn't matter to me. But kind of like what Collin said about Yurcich, it's funny these offensive coordinators, when they're at other schools, how successful they are, and then they get to a school where they're kind of handcuffed on what they're allowed to do. And I think that's an example. I think Garrett Riley at Clemson, how can he go from what he did at TCU to now what's going on at Clemson? I don't think that's simply a talent difference. I think that's a coaching philosophy. And, Collin mentioned Franklin saving his job. I don't think Franklin's on the hot seat or anything, but what a way to kind of cool the heat, I guess, before it builds to that, is to make some changes on the offensive coordinator front. So we'll have to see. I think if I remember correctly, this will be a 6th offensive coordinator in Not So Happy Valley. So we'll see what the 2024 edition of Penn State looks like.
And Brady's facing his old offensive coordinator this weekend. So should be quite interesting.
Yeah.
The just a follow up to that, Brett, because we didn't need the Clemson ricochet shot, but look, Dabo did say
too easy.
Dabo did say when a lot of heat was on Garrett Riley and the offense looking stagnant, he said, I didn't bring Riley in to run Riley's offense. I brought him in to run Clemson's offense. Dumb question. Do these offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, do they not ask ahead of time, hey, are you going to handcuff me? Or am I here to run my offense? Like, how does that even get to that point these coordinators can go to any school they want and that'll have them. And how does that happen?
So Tim, I know you're like literally like 2 hours from after you just graduated from high school, and that's actually a compliment. But so when you go on your next job interview and they tell you, okay, this is what the job's like, and you say, can I do this, this, and this? And they're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Perfect. We'd love to have you. And then as soon as you sign on the dotted line, they're like, okay, and you try to do this, then they're like, wait, no, we don't do it that way. You do it this way. You're already locked in. So I'm exaggerating, obviously, but I think that's part of it. Money plays a big part. But if Dabo, said we didn't bring Riley in to run TCU's offense, we brought him in to run Clemson's offense, then why did you make a change from your previous coordinator? If he was running Clemson, if you're just going to run Clemson's offense, then what, Tim, you could be the offensive coordinator. So yeah, I don't mean to make this an anti-Clemson podcast, but yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
That's
Let
a
me
brutal
give you
way to let Tim know he's getting fired, by the way.
Let me give you two head coaching.
Don't check your email.
Two head coaching.
I don't worry. What, Collin?
Well, there's two head coaching situations with two new offensive coordinators, and they have completely different results. Texas A&M has now fired Jimbo Fisher. I don't think Bobby Petrino ever had any say on fourth downs, third downs. I think the big decisions all fell on Jimbo because there were still problems in that offense when it came down to money downs. So you see what it's like when you hire somebody as smart as Bobby Petrino on the offensive side and you kind of handcuff them. Look what Barry Odom is doing at UNLV. Brennan Marion is the inventor of the go-go offense. He comes in there. It is the most wild formations, motion. There's so much crap moving around pre-snap. I don't know how any Mountain West defense can keep up with it. Brennan Marion's going to have a big-time job. But at the same time, Tim, like he could go be Clemson's next offensive coordinator and he's going to get handcuffed. He could be with Jimbo wherever Jimbo goes and be handcuffed. So you look at two different situations there. Barry Odom elected to allow his offensive coordinator to do whatever he wanted. And it was a different with Petrino at A&M.
And also, Collin, Petrino was UNLV's offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He left at the last minute to go to A&M. And I talked to Barry Odom about that. He was very disappointed. He was shocked and, kind of unanswered prayers there. Kind of worked out for the best for UNLV and not so great for A&M and Petrino.
I'm glad we went down that because we learned something. And I guess, the Franklin situation, it wasn't, this happens other places too, but you scratch your head with the amount of talent they had. One team that has plenty of talent on the offensive side of the ball, LSU, Jayden Daniels, just an incredible performance, over 600 yards of offense, 300 plus passing, 200 plus rushing, 5 touchdowns. On this podcast, we don't talk about Heisman, or we try not to till it gets towards the end because we know the formula. It's one of the best players or the best player on the best team, an undefeated team or close to it. So Stuckey, Daniels is now 4-1 to win the Heisman at BetMGM. Bo Nick's the favorite at plus 100. With our algorithm and our formula, the way we get here, does Daniels have a legitimate shot?
I don't think so. No. I mean, what's his Heisman moment going to be? Beating the shit out of Georgia State this weekend. They played Georgia State and Texas A&M to close out the year. I just don't see it. You have Nix and Penix who basically control their own destiny. You also have Marvin Harrison Jr. who I think has a better chance. Although at his price point, I would just parlay Ohio State money line, Marvin Harrison to score a touchdown, and Marvin Harrison over yards. Right, because he could win it if he just goes bananas in an upset win over Michigan. All right, and he basically wins the game by himself. So yeah, I just don't. Daniels is putting up insane numbers, but I just don't think LSU is relevant enough, and he's not going to have a big moment. I mean, he got hurt against Alabama in a loss, and what is the other? They lost to Ole Miss, they lost to Florida State. There's no Heisman moment, and that's not going to change down the stretch. Against Georgia State and Texas A&M to close out the year.
Yeah. Harrison plus 450 on BetMGM. So that
Yeah, I would
bring
take
some.
him over Daniels because he has an opportunity. You'd have to have Nix and Penix slip up, and then you have to beat Michigan, and then you have to go off in that game. That's a path for Harrison, who I think is going to be there regardless in New York. But I think because of that game against Michigan, an undefeated Michigan team, I would take Harrison over Daniels. But like I said, I think like a Harrison same game parlay would pay out more against Michigan.
So lack of a Heisman moment for Daniels. Does the rest of the panel concur with Stuckey here? Brett, start with you.
Duck, I agree with everything you just said, and I hope to God you're wrong. If there was ever a year to give it to a guy based on what he's done for this season, the most outstanding player in college football, it's Jayden Daniels, hands down. I mean, you laid it out perfectly why he won't win, but he should win. And that's what sucks about this award. We should just rename it to, instead of the Heisman, it should be best quarterback on a team ranked in the top 8 that has a great play on national TV the last 2 weeks of the season trophy. And then give the Heisman to actually the best player. Because Jayden Daniels has been incredible. And look, I'm doing a 180 on everything I've said up to this point all year long. But I think he has proven on the field to be such a difference maker that, he'll get to New York, but it's sad that I agree with you, Stuck. You're right. It's sad that he doesn't have a shot because they didn't win the West. They're not going to play in the SEC title game, but he has put up some monster numbers we've never seen before. And, but Stuck, you're right. He probably has no shot, but he should win it. And, you're not allowed to announce who you're voting for before you vote. So I'm not saying who I'm going to vote for, but if I had to vote today and I don't vote today, I vote in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But if I voted today, Jayden Daniels would be atop my ballot.
When do we vote again? I forget the date. Is it after conference championship again?
You've got till Monday, 5 p.m. after the conference championship game.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, like, to me, Washington, Oregon is the most likely Pac-12 championship. Like, that's probably just going to be the plan if they don't slip up. Like, Arizona still has a path to the Pac-12 title. Like, Oregon, it's going to come back. Oregon State, if you have Harrison or if you bet on Daniels, I think those are probably the only 2 other guys that can win it. McCarthy's now dead after not even attempting a pass in the second half, but against Penn State. But if you have them, you basically just need to become a big Oregon State fan. So you need Oregon State to beat Washington, Oregon State to beat Oregon. And then there's a chance where, you have Arizona. Then you become an Arizona fan. You have Arizona in the Pac-12 title.
You can join the Stuckey fan club
against Washington. And then Arizona beats Washington. And then you might have eliminated Nix and Penix. And if Ohio State loses to Michigan, then maybe that's Daniels' path. But that's a lot of stuff that needs to happen.
Collin, we're going to go 3 for 3 here on the feeling, and that you kind of can't win it, but wish you could.
Yeah, I echo. Actually, crazy enough, Jayden Daniels was my number 3 selection on my Heisman ballot last year. I think I was one of the few people that voted for him when I saw the final results. It's just because of how many touchdowns, all-purpose touchdowns he can put up. He's doing the same right now. I mean, from a passing perspective, he's right in the mix with the rest of the guys. He does have a little bit too many turnover-worthy plays, but I mean, come on, that's just trying to find holes in his game right now. He is the best looking quarterback on film. It's not even close. The problem is that highlight reels move odds, and championships and berths into the college football playoff is what wins the Heisman. So sadly, he doesn't have a chance to do any of that. But I mean, it's the most electric thing you'll see on film this year from a quarterback position. Sadly enough, he won't be playing on conference championship weekend. He won't be in the college football playoff, and that hurts his odds. And he should be well behind Marvin Harrison Jr., not in the same area as him in the odds board.
Hey, all I know is if you guys really want to get drunk the last 2 weeks of the season, just anytime any of the TV commentators doing the game mentions Heisman Trophy with whatever game they're televising, take a drink. You'll be in a freaking ER over the weekend, because all the promotions will come out from CBS, ABC, ESPN. This guy deserves the Heisman. This guy, so that would be ad nauseum.
I actually think that if you want to take a shot right now, to bet somebody, like McCarthy's at 100 to 1, he should be at like 1,000,000 to 1. But if you want to take a shot right now, and like some of those things happen that I just talked about, like there's chaos in the Pac-12. I mean, it's hard for me to see Jordan Travis doing it. That Florida State just played. I mean, Florida State could play Vatek in the ACC title. By the way, that's a scenario that's alive. But Collin has caught on this before. It would be over the past few weeks. It's Jalen Milroe. He's playing so much better now, and he's going to have a marquee game in the Iron Bowl, and then they're going to play Georgia in the SEC championship. Talk about a potential, Heisman moment. So there's other chaos, and he's in the, I don't know, 50, 60 to 1 range.
50 to 1 BetMGM right now.
Yeah, I would much rather have Milroe at 50 to 1 than Daniels at 4 to 1 right now, any day of the week. Because Milroe has looked really impressive. That offense has figured out some things, and he'll have a chance in back-to-back weekends in high-profile games against Auburn, and the most importantly against a Georgia team that wouldn't have lost in 3 years. If he wins the SEC championship, like, it'll get interesting.
A guy that couldn't see the field against USF, but it's an incredible story to say the least. Brett, just quickly, I want to get your opinion. You said it's unfortunate that it is this way. Why did it get this way? When did it get this way? Because I feel like I don't remember it being this egregious, and maybe it's a function of the year in college football that we're having
I think, Tim, I just think it's social media. I think it's every game's, televised. Everybody wants results immediately. That's why coaches are fired after 1 year. Nobody wants to be patient. So forget about the entire season. It's somebody wants a moment. Somebody wants a Heisman moment. And that's just kind of how it's been reduced to. So much talk about who goes to the playoff, so much emphasis being on that. I think it's changed everything. And, we were talking about Marvin Harrison, 30 yards receiving against Indiana, 30-something yards against Notre Dame. And he's a Heisman candidate. Nothing wrong with that. But, it's totally changed. I don't know exactly when, but it's certainly been in the last few years that it has been micro-focused on what you do in that last game and that spotlight, and everybody waiting for that one play for their, quote, Heisman moment.
I think what's interesting, Tim,
similar to the NFL, by the way. NFL the last 10 years MVP is just quarterback on a team with a bye in the playoffs.
Well, the Wooden Award is like in college basketball is like predetermined before the season starts. Like whoever the favorite is, they almost always win it. But as far as this goes for the Heisman in our sport, it's just been years since I've taken a long shot because of this obsession with teams making the playoff. How much does all this change next year? Like, how much am I sitting around in February and March because 12 teams are going to make the playoff? Am I thinking maybe it's time for me to take a long shot on somebody that can make the playoff? That's going to be a real big decision to make before next season.
Good point. And then
we're going to get, if you hate money and just are in feeling that you want to, burn money, Kyle McCord 250 to 1. If you wanted to just throw away some money.
And we'll get the
money. Keep betting on Colorado to win the national championship.
Well, Collin, to close your point, and then we're going to get this guy won the Heisman and then got upset in the first round of the 12-team playoff. That's what we're eventually going to get. So yeah, I don't know how much better it really could be. And speaking of better, I guess you could say it's pretty good for Jimbo Fisher. He doesn't have to work for $70 million. That ain't bad. Texas A&M. Brett, you said it a couple weeks ago. What's the price of oil? Well, they figured it out. It sounds like oil's doing pretty well. So Jimbo gets fired there. Collin, you're an SEC guy. I'll let you get the first bite at this. What do you think? What do you make of all this? It's just fascinating. I love just refreshing Twitter over and over on all the stories, all the angles on it.
I think it's amazing the kind of summer I had. I had lunch with Bo Nix at Pac-12 Media Days, and I was the first person to get to ask Jimbo Fisher a question at SEC Media Days, which he dodged, got uncomfortable, and started tripping over his words. I mean, it was inevitable. Absolutely inevitable. You had to let Bobby Petrino have complete control of this offense, and I'm not surprised. I mean, the fact that Texas A&M has this money, not surprised. The fact they let him go, I'm not surprised. But I think what I am surprised by is this talk out there from people in the media that some of them I actually respect are saying that Texas A&M is a legit, like, one of the best jobs in college football. I'm not positive I believe that. I mean, maybe Brett can speak further to that, but I'm not sure if I was a head coach looking for a job, that would be a place I would want to go, considering, your fight in the recruiting pipeline, your position with Texas you're about to diminish because they're joining your league once again. I'm not sure this is a job that I would want to have.
I'll take it. Look, the money they'll be able to throw you. I mean, yeah, there was an OPEC report that they were concerned about demand, but that they came out and said they're not as worried about demand, and oil's been up over the past week, so timing makes sense. But I would take that job. Look, you get so much talent, you get paid, they'll pay you. But yeah, from a national title perspective, here's my thing though. What you're going to pay him all that money, and I'm going to ask Brett this because someone asked me this. Alabama fan, a couple Alabama followers were up for the game in Kentucky, and I met up with them. We were talking college football for a while. And we were talking about Jimbo getting fired. And I said, this is coming after a loss. You got to pay him $70 million to go away. Why would you do that unless you had a guy? And then, you had who you think you wanted or a handshake agreement on the back end. Oddly enough, over the weekend, Lane Kiffin is talking about how they only signed one 5-star. Georgia had 24. And he just needs to coach better because they're at a talent disadvantage. Well, who gets a lot of 5-stars is Texas A&M. Kiffin to A&M. I mean, it feels like that would be a move. Kiffin staying in the SEC, gets more money, more 5-stars to work with. Can you see it, Brett?
Yeah, Stuck. I mean, I think, you look at Kiffin and what he's done. Absolutely. I think A&M will consider him. I think they'll look at Dan Lanning because of what he's done at Oregon, but also just as important, he's familiar with the SEC, having been at Georgia. The thing with A&M, and it's simple, but it's not simple. It doesn't matter who they get. The guy just has to win. Like Jeff Traylor at UTSA could be a home run hire there and really succeed. But are they going to want to hire the Roadrunner coach? How will that look for them? And they're basically, whoever said this is a great job, it's a great job resource-wise. But as far as degree of difficulty, as far as the Power 5 jobs, other than, the bottom of the barrel, but the ones near the top, this is probably one of the tougher ones because you're in the SEC and you're being compared against the success of Georgia, Alabama, LSU. Basically, they rotate who wins the national title every year, and you haven't reached those expectations. Oh, by the way, you left the Big 12 conference to get away from Texas. Well, guess what? Now Texas is going to be in your conference next year, and Texas may get to the playoff this year. And you guys haven't even won a West Division title. You haven't won an SEC title. You haven't won a national title. You've got to empty. What did I say I wanted to go as Halloween? I wanted to go as Texas A&M empty trophy case. I guess I can wear that again next year. I don't know what they're going to do. The problem or the challenge for Jimbo was being paid all that much money. The expectations were even that much higher. They were unrealistic. And whether that's fair or not, who knows? But they decided to pay him that, and they'll pay the next guy just as much or a little bit more. But ultimately, those expectations led to his downfall. The first and only coach to have 3 teams in the preseason AP top 6 that finished the year unranked. It's never happened 3 times to one guy. So they had all these expectations. They've got all these 5-stars, and they can't even, win the SEC West. So somebody's going to take the job. Nobody's going to not take the job and think, ooh, I can't win there, because that's why these guys are coaches. They think they can win anywhere. They'll have plenty of candidates. It's just what direction they decide to go.
I think it would just make, look, you mentioned how difficult the job is, and I agree, but and equally one of the other jobs that's just as tough, Ole Miss, same division, same other teams that you're like, so Kiffin's already doing that now, just without the 5 stars.
But now he gets the 5 stars and he gets twice as much. He gets everything he wants before he asks for it at Texas A&M. At Ole Miss, he's got to raise money. He's got to do all this and stuff. And that gets frustrating for a lot of coaches. Not talking about Kiffin specifically. So you want to go where you have everything at your beck and call. And that's Texas A&M. You're in one of the 2 best recruiting states. So I don't think Kiffin, and this is nothing against Ole Miss, Kiffin is not going to finish his career at Ole Miss. He's going to make the jump. And if you ever watch his press conferences, he is Saban. He is like, he's a mirror image of Saban. Obviously, he'd love to go to Alabama. But yeah, Texas A&M, Kiffin would go there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't think
he flirted with Auburn
yet.
He flirted with Auburn.
I don't think he's buttoned up enough yet to go to Alabama. I mean, Saban's
maybe not, but he's working on it.
Yeah, he's working on it. But I think the next natural step would be A&M, and that's what they need. They need a modern offense, not just scheme, but aggression, decision making, and Kiffin can bring that there. And I think you get even better offensive recruits than you've been getting, even though you've been getting really good ones. I just think it would make too much sense for everyone involved.
Collin, you were nodding your head.
No, listen. His agent has played Auburn and Arkansas like a fiddle and getting more money. So that's what's going to happen between now and the Egg Bowl. And when Lane Kiffin walks out on the field at the Egg Bowl, all the talk is going to be on him about where are you going after this? What does your day look like after the Egg Bowl? He's not going to answer any of those questions. He was dodging them like crazy last year. So we're never going to know if he's actually going to Texas A&M. But, I was kind of laughing at Brett saying that he's Nick Saban 2.0, which he is. The way he does his hand gestures, the way that he gets grumpy, the way he gets pissed off with Feinbaum and some of the other people that are in media. He is quickly turning into Saban 2.0, but I kind of always thought he'd be long for the Alabama job. So we'll see. We'll see if he takes this position at A&M.
Hey, Collin, real quick. It's funny how you said you talked to Jimbo and he ended up getting cut loose, and you had all these ties. Rod Gilmore, who I worked with at ESPN, he tweeted at me and said he called the last game with Zach Arnett and Jimbo Fisher, and both coaches got fired. And he goes, I wonder if I had anything to do with it. And then he said, I guess the Arkansas and FIU staffs don't want to hear that this week. So how telling would that be if Rod Gilmore does another game and maybe not both coaches, but one of the coaches is unemployed after the weekend?
Mike McIntyre is not getting fired.
I wasn't referring to him.
Yeah.
So that leaves someone else.
Yeah. Things are very interesting at Arkansas right now because, Hunter Yurachek has a real close personal relationship with Sam Pittman. When Arkansas decided on Sam Pittman, it was talked about publicly that he was the 6th choice for that job. Like Kiffin's name was number 1. And so that's why he got a reduced salary. That's why he was able to bring in Barry Odom and Kendall Briles, who I believe is also unemployed. And he got to pay them really big coordinator money. And now Pittman has lost Barry Odom as his defensive coordinator. He probably needed that old head coaching experience to help him manage the roster, help him manage big decisions. He hasn't had that this year. He made a terrible decision as offensive coordinator. And now the athletic director of Arkansas, Hunter Yurachek, is sitting around wondering, if I fire Sam, what's the next move? Because these positions are opening up like crazy. I'm going to be in another position where I'm going to take my 6th string on my list of head coaches that I want. Now, personally, I would love to go get Jonathan Smith out at Oregon State. We've talked on this show about how there's no spot in the world for Oregon State or for Washington State, and their coaches are good enough to go coach in, one of the other Power Fives. I would love us to go get a Jonathan Smith, but if Hunter Yurachek doesn't have the warm fuzzies that he can go get the guy that he wants, realistically get the guy, because he's been through this before, then he's not going to fire Sam Pittman. And there was the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette last night said a decision has been made on Sam Pittman. It's going to be announced on Monday. No announcement came today. Sam Pittman's walking out there to coach against FIU. Now, whether there's an agreement that he's going to retire at the end of this season, I don't know. But we're going to be in the same position again. Going to have to go get the 6th string on the athletic director's list.
Well,
Have
they
you? I don't
spent
know
their
if you're
Monday.
watching. Get
Sorry,
there.
they spent their Monday talking about the Polar Express. That's they kind of got
Well,
tied up.
I've never
Yeah, do you
seen
know what
so much
movie they're going to be
outrage.
watching during during the half this week?
That was the walk-on room. That's where players that only run through the A and they don't actually play, they just get to dress like a Rudy thing. That's where they hang out. And one of the players turned on Polar Express, and man, the internet has just gone crazy about how this Arkansas team is so unfocused or watching Polar. It was the walk-on room. So, and Pittman had a nice long talk with him, but no, it's not a good look.
Why do they choose Polar Express? Because they're cold against the spread, or I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.
It's the walk-on
All right,
room. How would they? They're not even playing.
Stuckey, what were you saying something?
No, I was curious if Collin. I know he listens to the Pittman pressers. I don't know if he mentioned what movie they would be featuring in the locker room during the half this week. But I guess we'll have to wait till later in the week to find out.
We'll see. We'll see. I got to ask. So
the next one will be career opportunities with Jennifer Connelly in it. So they'll have something next week.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
They, I got to say, I kind of, part of me applauds A&M in that they kind of do everything a fan wants them to do. Like, hey, just go buy this guy out, figure it out. You know, like it's
build stadiums, build baseball stadiums, build cathedrals. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, and, but Stuckey, listen, Jimbo got paid $70 million to not coach. Could I pay you $70 million to, and here's the deal, 70 million, you have to stop tweeting immediately. You have to stop betting immediately, and you have to adhere to a normal sleep schedule. That means go to bed at around 11, wake up around 8. Could you do that?
No. Oh, no, absolutely not. I don't think there's any, you could give me, you could offer me 10 billion. No, my hobby and love is sports. I love betting sports. It's literally my favorite hobby in the world, trying to crack it every week. No, and I already have a couple months off to read books and travel, which is what I like to do. So yeah, there's no amount of money that you could offer me. Absolutely not.
If we give you $20, will you stop tweeting?
You'd have to give me like for that.
It's not the tweeting, it's the betting.
Tweeting though, yeah, I mean, I do it for like.
I think it's the sleeping. I give you 70 million to get a good night's sleep.
They're all tied in together though. Trying to beat betting, you can't really sleep. Yeah, no, it's part of who I am. I met my wife through Twitter. I helped start Action because of Twitter. A lot of my friends came through Twitter. So, no, sorry.
More power to you, Stuck. Somebody offered me 70 million. It'd be like, where do I sign?
Collin, would you pick up and leave Arkansas for 70 million and stop going to Arkansas
for free
softball games and whatnot?
I would not.
He would pay to leave.
No, you couldn't pay me enough to leave. I truly believe I'm going to retire here and live my golden years here. You couldn't pay me enough to leave Arkansas. So, and 70 million is not enough for what my dream is. My dream is really to own a sports franchise. That would be the ultimate dream job. And 70 million is not even going to get close to buying me a single A baseball team. So, nope, not enough. I had to turn it down.
Unfortunately,
the Arkansas Lakers. Can't wait.
That's good to know, though. I mean, geez, yeah, Brett, I'm with you. Yeah, you 7 million. I'll stop doing anything. Like, seriously,
I can be bought. Yeah,
let's go. Me too, 100%. So on these very airwaves a couple weeks ago, Stuckey said that the ultimate trump card in college football right now, this was a couple weeks ago, is held by Texas with a road win at Alabama. So, since then, Brett, at one point you had Texas #1 in your poll a couple of weeks ago, or weeks back. I feel like back in September. Collin, you had him power rated #2 at one point. Stuckey, is that trump card still valid, or is the way that Texas and Alabama have played since then, has that kind of crumbled up the trump card a little bit?
Yeah. Well, first, I would. Colin's trying to build enough wealth to own a sports franchise. I would suggest to not stop betting Oklahoma State live against UCF. But the you know the yes, I do. I still think that they have a trump card over Alabama. And by the way, the SEC, the best SEC non-conference win for the whole conference is arguably Mississippi State against Arizona. They don't have a good non-conference win. So, but if I look at it, how I think this is going to play out. Now, look, there's teams that control their own destiny, right? Michigan, Ohio State winner, assuming they don't get upset by Minnesota or Iowa or whatever. They're in. Florida State controls its own destiny. They're in. And you have Washington controls its own destiny. If they win out, they're in. And then Georgia, obviously. So if those teams win out, and the winner of Michigan, Ohio State, that's your college football out. There's no arguments. I don't think Washington is going to win out. And so then it's going to come down to that discussion. And if there's and the way that I think that it's ultimately going to play out is that you're going to have hold on, let me pull up my scenario. So if Georgia loses to Alabama, right? Because Alabama's out of it, they lose to Georgia. So they'd have 2 losses. So if Georgia loses to Alabama, I think Georgia's out. Unless there's like complete chaos and a bunch of other teams lose games. But I think Georgia's out. So let's call Florida State in this scenario. And let's call the winner of Michigan, Ohio State in. And I think Washington loses to Oregon. And Washington, I think, loses this week anyway. But I think they would lose to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. And then, so I think in that scenario, it's going to be 2 spots for 3 teams. 1 loss, Alabama. 1 loss, assuming Texas wins the Big 12 and doesn't lose again. And then 1 loss, Oregon, that wins the Pac-12 championship. I do not think that you can take Alabama over Texas. So they're going to put Texas in. Texas won at Alabama, and they won the Big 12. And they're going to put Alabama in, and then Oregon would be left out. The Pac-12 is going away anyway. I mean, Oregon's best win, they don't have any good non-conference wins. Their only top 25 win up to this state is against Utah and their 3rd-string quarterback. So I think that they would, and especially if Washington already has a loss leading up to the Pac-12 title, which I think happens. I think in that scenario, yes, Texas still has its trump card, keeps them above Oregon, keeps them above Alabama, but the committee will still find a way to get Alabama in. Both get in, Oregon's left out. Obviously, there's many other scenarios, but that's one that I think is going to play out, has a really good chance of playing out. And in that case, I think both Texas and Bama get in. Oregon is out. Curious to see what Brett and Collin think if that were to be the scenario that plays out.
Fellas?
I mean, I'll go first because Brett is much more well-versed on what the selection committee is going to do versus what I could come up with. But I believe the committee has made a determination that Oregon is ahead of Texas right now at this point because of their slotting at 6 and Texas at 7. So that's assuming that Oregon wins out, whether Washington loses to Oregon State or they're undefeated and Oregon beats them in Vegas. Oregon's the one that gets that slot in there. Texas desperately needs Florida State to lose, whether that's going to happen to Florida, whether that's going to happen to Louisville in the ACC championship game. It's weird to think that they would have the best win out of anybody against Alabama, but the pecking order right now says that the Pac-12 champ is going to get in, assuming Oregon, Washington don't take losses between now and the Pac-12 championship game. They're the ones that get in. If Florida State wins out, they're in. And I think Stuckey's right, though. If Alabama beats Georgia, Georgia's going to get bumped. You're not going to leave the SEC champion out whatsoever. But how are you not including Texas in that Final Four, considering Texas has a win over Alabama if they're the SEC champion? So to me, it's wild.
Did you have 5 teams in, Collin? You have 5 teams in. You got to make a decision. Who's out?
Well, I mean, it's not what I want. It's what I think the committee is going to do. And they're never going to turn down an undefeated team. And they're not going to turn down an SEC champion, a one-loss SEC champion. So they're going to bump Georgia and the loser of the game out of there. And then Texas
then it comes down to Texas or Oregon.
And right now the committee likes Oregon better than Texas. I mean, if they don't like their schedule right now, why is Oregon 6 and why is Texas 7?
Brett, what do you think?
I mean, Stuck, you're right, and Collin, you're right. The problem with the committee is they're so consistent with their inconsistencies. And even though they have Oregon above Texas right now, they could literally flip them Tuesday night for no reason. And you guys nailed all the points. And when you look at it, if Oregon wins out, they will have top 25 wins against Oregon State and then presumably in the rematch against Washington. By that time, Stuck, Utah could fall out of the top 25, so they wouldn't even be considered as a top 25 win. Texas, the win at Bama, that may be their only top 25 win, depending on who they get in the Big 12 title game. So, but the Bama win would be the most impressive of those. You could compare, common opponents. Oregon opened with Texas Tech, won a close game by 8. Texas closes the regular season by Texas Tech. What if Texas beats, the Red Raiders by 2 touchdowns or more? That would seem to give more, credibility to Texas, but Colin's right. They've got them behind Oregon right now when they should be above Oregon based on the committee and how they want to rate Ohio State based on their resume, and then they rate Michigan and Georgia based on the eye test, and then they rate Florida State based on resume. So they change the rules with every team. Bottom line is, in the scenario you said, Stuck, we've got 3 undefeated teams, 1 lost Texas, 1 lost Oregon, 1 lost Bama. History says they would choose Texas. However, sources have told me, I've never reported this before, sources have told me if any member of the selection committee does not have an SEC team in the top 4 and they try to put in that ballot, they are legitimately electrocuted on the spot. So I don't think it's possible not to vote for the SEC in the top 4. I'm actually joking, but not joking, but that would be fascinating TV to see what happens if we've got 3 undefeated and the committee has to pick between 1 loss Texas, 1 loss Oregon, 1 loss Bama, and 1 loss non-SEC champ Georgia.
And all 3 of those are conference champs, Brett, right? I mean,
except Georgia would not be. Right.
Bama loses to Auburn, then beats Georgia. SEC has to be out.
They're out.
But what I would say though is that I don't think it's gonna be the only top 25 Texas win. Kansas plays Kansas State this week. Winner of that's they're both in the top 25 now. Winner of that.
But they gotta be in it at the end of the year. That's the key thing.
I know. I think Kansas, they're both in the top 25 now. They're going to get another one of them's getting a win, right?
Right. But if Texas beats whoever they beat in the Big 12 title game and that knocks that team out of the top 25, as stupid as it is, they don't get credit for beating a top 25 team, even though they just beat them and knocked them out of the top 25. But yeah, they could get one more, but at max, it's going to be somebody in the 20 to 25 range.
I would say though that I think that you could see the committee jump Texas over Oregon this week, and it wouldn't be for no reason. Like Oregon's a 23-point favorite. Texas is a touchdown favorite on the road. So like Texas would have a better win. So like
it would be an excuse, Stuck. I think if they did that, it would basically be admitting we screwed up last week and we should have had Texas ranked above Oregon. And they have done that in the past. They did that with Michigan State and Ole Miss one year. Mississippi State. So I'm sorry. They did it with Mississippi State and Michigan State several years ago in a final ranking. Neither team played a game and they flipped them. And what it did is it impacted who went the Orange Bowl. All they did is they admitted they made a mistake the previous week. I could see that happening with Texas and Oregon.
Yeah.
There you go. Just as we get ready here for, we're going to do Stumper and then Maction to close us out. But first, BBOC is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, it's that time. Brett, you're back. We had a miraculous tie with Calabrese running it last week. It was a brain buster that all came. No, excuse me, it wasn't a tie.
Collin, you got nothing. Don't try to give yourself points. You had 0 points.
I was thinking of the week before we had that tie after all that work.
You're trying to forget about last week.
Yeah, we had that tie.
We flushed it. We're on the next week.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I got goose egged. So I like your questions better than Calabrese's.
All right. That was like the NBA's in-season tournament. Nobody understands why they're doing it or why they did it. So we'll forget about it. So yeah, this week's source is Stumper, America's favorite game show. First off, scoreboard update since it's been a while. Stuckey leading the pack, 19 points. Collin and Tim tied at 15. There's been a development the past couple weeks. With a heavy heart, we had to acknowledge that Brian Ferentz is no longer going to be Iowa's offensive coordinator. And it's because for several reasons, but also the well-known 25-point average that he had to maintain. He never did quite make that. I'm going to list you guys right now some football teams. You need to just simply tell me yes or no. Are they averaging more than 25 points a game this season? After you each answer, I'll tell you who got the correct answer, and we'll go from there. Stuckey, you're leading. You go first. Collin, then Tim, and make these fairly quick and hopefully painless. All right, first team up. Stuck, Arkansas, over or under 25 points a game this year?
I feel like you're tricking me, but under.
Collin?
Wait, under 25, you said?
Yeah, over or under 25.
They're under.
I'm going to say, yeah, after last week, too, they got to be under. I'm going to go under. They're probably like closer to 21. I'm going to go under.
Okay, Tim?
I'd say under 2. It's probably real close.
You guys are 0 for 3. They're averaging 26.1.
Arkansas?
Boston College. Stuck?
How is Arkansas averaging over 25? That's. Can I check your math on that?
I mean, they haven't scored a touchdown in Razorback Stadium in since BYU, I think. I mean,
I'm going to check the math. Otherwise, we can.
They scored
All right,
56 in the opener,
Arkansas,
28, 31, 31, 23, 20, 21, 38, 10, 26.1.
Let's see. 28 and 31 is 59 plus 31 is 90.
Dude, I'll tell you right now.
112, 132, 153.
They've scored 261
156.
points this year.
166, 202, 258. Is that what you said?
261.
It's a fucking garbage.
All they have to do is get over 250.
Maybe I forgot about the Western that FCS game. Okay. Stand correct.
All right. That's all right. You guys are 0 for 3. Boston College. Stuck, you're up.
And we all give the answers, right?
Yeah, and then I'll tell you who's got it and who did after each team.
Because I don't want to add context to what I'm saying if it helps. Boston College under it's 25 points.
25.0 over or under.
I'm gonna say BC is over.
Collin?
Over.
Tim?
The problem is that Georgia Tech game where they scored a bunch of points. I don't think it's enough. Under.
Stuckey and Collin, you are correct. Boston College averaging 26.4. Surprising. NC State. Stuck?
They've won some bullshit games. I'm gonna say under.
Under.
Tim?
Do I go for the point here? Over.
Tim, you went for the point and you missed the point. They are under 24.6 points for the Wolfpack. Stuckey
You
and
haven't got a
Collin.
point in weeks.
I'm Iowa. I am the question.
Three teams left. The Houston Cougars. Stuck?
Oh, that's a really good one because they either vomit or score a bunch. What did they do last week? I think they vomited. Then they had that Rice game. I'll go under.
Under.
Tim?
Oh shit!
You
Here we
going for
go
the
again. Give me the point. More scoring than vomit. Over.
More vomit, Tim. They are under 24.1. NC State, 4 points shy of averaging 25 points a game. Houston, 9 points shy from averaging 25 points a game. We only got 2 left. We'll put you out of your misery. The Cincinnati Bearcats. Stuck?
That's another good one.
What'd you think he was going to give? Washington? Like,
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, that they're
South
they're
Florida?
bad, but they've scored a lot sometimes. I'll say over.
Yeah.
Collin?
Imagine what their point total would be if they didn't fumble all the time in the red zone. Definitely, I'm going over.
Tim?
I hate this game. Okay.
It hates you
keep
too.
doing it. Yeah, I actually believe this is over.
Over. You all 3 of you are correct.
This is on the board.
25.2 points. The mighty Bearcats. They average more than 25 points because of 2 points. There you go. And the final one. We go out west. Sorry, it's not USC I'm looking for. It is the Utah Utes. Tim, you go first this time.
Yeah, that's a good
okay.
idea. So he doesn't just try to steal.
Under.
Stuck?
Well, let Collin go.
Collin, go ahead.
I'm going under. I cannot see a world where Utah's averaging more than 25 points a game.
All right, Stuck, you going for the points or you going for what you really think?
Who do they played? So their FCS game they scored 31. I know that against like a Big Sky team. They scored like 35 versus Cal. See, I'm gonna say over, and I think it's probably barely over, and it's probably because of the last few weeks they scored 56 against Arizona State. That's massive. That's like,
Weren't they high 30s against USC?
Yeah, they scored 28 last week against Washington. I'm gonna go over.
Yeah, can we go back around?
No, you can't, Tim. Stuck, you're right. 25.3. They made it by 3 points. They are over. So after today's little go around, Stuckey, you're at 23 points. Collin, 18. Tim, you're at 16. We've got one more, a 3-point bonus. Tim, since you can go first, Collin, you go second. Stuckey, you go third. I am looking for, we mentioned the 25-point total. There's 133 FBS schools. How many are not averaging 25 points a game? Of the 133 teams, how many are not averaging 25 points a game? Whoever is closest, 3-point bonus. Tim, what's your guess?
Ooh. I don't even know what a good number would be. Okay, I will go 29.
29. Excuse me, Collin.
$71.
Now, is Stuck going to try to middle this, or is he going to actually do a legitimate guess?
I mean, the prop, it's way more than 29. Like the 100th scoring offense in the country doesn't average over 25 points. But I don't think that there's 70. There's not more. I don't think there's more than half that average over 25. So like my legitimate guess is that it's probably somewhere in the middle. I'll say
just say 70 and get it over with.
I'll say my first guess is going to be, I thought 80 teams do, so I was going to say like 53, but I'll say 55.
The correct answer is 51.
Wow.
There you go, Stuck. Nearly 40% of all FBS teams would have been fired if they were working at Iowa. So our thoughts and prayers to Brian Ferentz.
See, that's what got me, is the idea that I thought it was, so historic that he couldn't even get to 2025. That was, did he pay you for that question? Because that was like you could be his lawyer with that.
I can be bought, but no, I was not bought for this specific segment. But if you'd like to buy me, please contact our sponsor. But yeah, I mean, that's what's so crazy about this point total thing is, 40% of the teams in the FBS wouldn't have hit the number anyway. So, but anyway, I wanted to give you guys some current Stumper instead of going back in the reams of history that Stuckey loves so much.
Oh, that was good. I like that question.
I like that. That's a fun way to do it. Okay, you guys, hold your nose. Maction. We got 3 games on Tuesday, 2 games on Wednesday. Collin, lead us with a pick, and we'll go to that game. And do you have a Tuesday pick?
Yeah, let's do Western Michigan +5 against Northern Illinois. These two teams have been completely different the last couple of weeks since midweek action started. Northern Illinois has been horrific, did not show up against Central Michigan in the snow whatsoever, was beaten by a Ball State team last week that can't even make a bowl game. Northern Illinois is getting smoked in the first half of these games, and they cannot respond. They have been terrible on defense in passing downs. They have a pretty good success rate in standard downs, but they've been terrible in passing downs. And now they have Jalen Buckley and this Western Michigan offense coming in, who's just firing on all cylinders right now. Their ground game runs inside zone, just an unbelievable amount. And Northern Illinois cannot defend inside zone, one of the worst in the nation. So give me Jalen Buckley and Western Michigan and give me the 5 points.
Stuckey, unless you have a pick on that game, give me a Tuesday pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna jinx myself. I've won going back to last year. I've won 14 straight midweek action bets. So I wanted to throw the jinx out there before the end of the season, mainly because someone brought it up and tried to jinx me. So I'm gonna try and reverse jinx it. But one thing to keep in mind: Toledo Bowling Green. Toledo's a 10-point favorite there. Bowling Green's star running back Terrion Stewart, he's hurt, high ankle sprain. We don't know if he'll play. His backup Taron Keith, who's their leading receiver, he had an amazing game last week. He got hurt at the end of the game. He's a game time decision. If neither of them can play, I think Toledo can blow them out here. Toledo's not playing for anything. They've already clinched a title in the MAC championship. Clinched a spot in the MAC championship. But this is a big rivalry game, and Bowling Green beat them last year. So I think Toledo will show up here, and if they don't have Keith and Stewart in that backfield, I just don't know how Bowling Green will move the ball. But my favorite bet of the week is why not? And the reason I wanted to bring up my streak is because it's probably going to end because I'm betting Akron. I like Akron. Anything over a field goal. Eastern Michigan is dreadful. I mean, this team is so bad. I have a lot of respect for Chris Creighton. Their special teams are good. They don't beat themselves, which is a problem. Akron special teams are horrendous. But this is a bottom 5 offense. I have Eastern Michigan as a bottom 5 team right now. Akron also is a bottom 5 team overall, and DJ Irons is hurt. But guess what? The best unit in this game will be the Akron defense. And the Akron defense is playing well. I mean, last week they completely shut down Miami of Ohio. And the best player on Akron, now they have a couple of talented receivers, George and company. You don't have Irons at quarterback, so it's tough, but they can make a couple plays. But the best player on the field will be Lorenzo Linger, the running back for Akron, a former Florida transfer. And Eastern Michigan can't defend the run. So I think Linger could break a couple long runs. And I trust this Akron defense, which has been pretty good. And they've been put in so many compromised situations by the offense. But the Eastern Michigan offense is horrendous. It's so bad. So anything over a field goal, I like Akron on the road in the MAC. What could go wrong?
I'm looking at Eastern Michigan -4.5 right now is what I see. Brett, do you have a note on the Tuesday Maction games over there?
Tim, I prefer to give my losing picks exclusively on Saturday's show, so I will pass.
Fair enough. Collin, care to clean up Tuesday? Was that your only pick?
No, I agree. Western Michigan for me, I agree with Stuckey. I'm waiting on the news from Bowling Green. Bowling Green's defense has zero answer for Penny Boone. It's really a matter of, does Toledo want to run this game out? I mean, they have such a huge lead in the MAC division. They're playing in the MAC championship. I don't know. We're going to find out, but I agree with Stuck. If they don't have their skill position players back for this game, then it's going to be a rout pretty fast.
Yeah, Bowling Green's run D's bad, as Colin alluded to, and that's not good against Toledo.
All right, Wednesday it is. We have Central Michigan at Ohio and Buffalo at Miami. Stuckey, do you have a pick on either of these two games?
Yeah, I would. People are going to probably get cute with Central Michigan. They're playing a little better, and Ohio's offense is abysmal. They have no explosiveness, but they like operate in a phone booth basically. They don't have any. They lost their two most explosive receivers from last year, and they have nothing downfield. And they hand it to O'Shea and Allison way too much, and it makes their run game inefficient. They missed their best offensive lineman, McMurphy, from last year too. So, but this is a game where they might be able to move it in a phone booth against Central Michigan. The Ohio defense is still pretty damn good. So I don't know. I'm pretty close to market there. I'm actually interested in Buffalo. Believe it or not, 3-7 Buffalo can get to the MAC championship. They just need to win out, and they need Miami of Ohio, and Bowling Green to lose out, but which is not happening. But they're still alive mathematically. I'm putting out a piece on ActionNetwork.com, the Action Network app, going through all the scenarios for every team. The two of the most shocking things that I found out: Buffalo is still mathematically alive, and we could still get a Big 12 championship game that features Texas Tech and Iowa State. There is a path for that. Big 12, by the way, could finish in an 8-way tie. That also could happen. For first place.
This podcast loves tiebreakers.
Yeah, 8-way tie, and it would be Kansas versus either Texas or Kansas State, depending on which game Oklahoma State lost. But more realistically, Oklahoma, they're all going to win. They have easy games coming up. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. Shocker. But yeah, Buffalo's still alive. Miami of Ohio, their defense is really good, but this offense, without Gabbert, it's not great. And Laverdine, their number one receiver, he got hurt at the end of last game. I got to check his status. But Buffalo, they're just pesky. And they're annoying. And this game should be lower scoring. So getting over a touchdown, I'll be on the Bulls here.
Yeah, make sure you follow Stuckey in the Action app as well. Brett, how many MAC schools have you been to?
Covered games at? I don't believe I've covered a basketball game. I've covered basketball games at Northern Illinois and Ball State. Do not believe I've covered a football game in the mighty MAC.
Yeah, do you have a favorite MAC school? MAC place to go?
I'd say Toledo.
Okay. I go Athens, Ohio. Athens, very underrated place. Great bar scene there. I've been there a number of times for stupid reasons. Collin, what do you have on Wednesday?
Not much. I am kind of waiting. The Ohio number intrigues me because I think there is value on it right now. I think it's going to steam before we get to kickoff. But at the same time, Ohio has not scored more than 20 points since October 7th. So it might be hard to cover a double-digit spread when it's been so long. Curtis Rourke is a little bit out of funk. Sam Wiglas is on the back of a milk carton right now. We haven't seen him do anything in a box score in a number of weeks. The defense is playing lights out, but this offense is just not scoring whatsoever. So total's probably a little bit too low on the other side of 48, where I would want to take an under, but I don't know. I think Ohio's going to
take an Ohio over right now. Just don't.
No, I wouldn't take an over. But
no, I'm talking to the listeners.
Yeah.
Until further notice.
Yeah, so I think if you can get it at 10 or better, but I'm not sure that I would play it any higher than that because Ohio is having problems scoring, period, over the last month.
Fair enough. Does that close out our action here? Thought we had.
That's it. That's all 5 games.
I have a correction. I did cover a football game at Northern Illinois.
Well done. Good episode. Enjoyed it. I escaped with only a little Clemson shade from Brett, as I'll be going there this weekend to see Drake May in person, do a little scouting for the Patriots, see if they'll be and they very much are in the quarterback race. So I'm excited to be down there, and hopefully
Clemson
it's not
and a Patriots fan. Oh man, you had your glory days are over.
Oh yeah, it's all over.
You had your time, but it's done now.
Yeah, worst part is it was my time, and I like wasn't even like 21 and like could go enjoy it. I was like, you know, in high school. So it was, you know,
I mean,
that's what it is.
2018 to 19, you both teams were
Yeah,
good.
Yeah. It's very true. So yeah, it's not going good, but we'll see. It's we're buying a lot of Dabo stock. That'll do it for us on this episode of BBOC presented by BetMGM. Podcast returns Wednesday morning with Mike Calabrese and Mike Iannello for their Week 11 Group of 5 deep dive before Collin and Stuckey's big betting preview episode out late Thursday. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time here on Big Bets on Campus. Thank you, guys.